My grandpa asked in surprise, "Buddy, why did you come by taxi? What happened to the BMW we gave you for your 21st birthday?" Before I could answer, my mom smiled and said, "That car belongs to his sister now." My grandpa went quiet for a second, like he was trying to process that, and what he did next, that's when something shifted for me. My name is Ethan. I'm 26, the oldest grandchild, the one who always ends up fixing things no one else wants to deal with. If something breaks, I handle it. If someone forgets something important, I show up anyway. That's just how it's always been. I run a small workshop out of a rented garage where I hand paint Christmas ornaments. Nothing big, just steady work, long hours, and trying to get every detail right. Most days my hands smell like paint and sealant. I like things simple. Lists, quiet mornings, getting a clean line without messing it up. People say I'm patient. The truth is, I just avoid conflict. I learned early that staying calm and solving the problem is easier than arguing, and in my family, solving the problem usually meant paying for it. That Saturday, I showed up at my grandparents' house in a taxi. Not because I wanted to, because the BMW wasn't part of my life anymore. I still had glitter stuck in my hair from work. I was carrying boxes, trying not to drop anything, when my grandpa opened the door and said, surprised, "Buddy, why did you come by taxi? What happened to the BMW we gave you?" I froze. Before I could say anything, my mom stepped in, already smiling like she had the answer ready. "That car belongs to his sister now." The room changed instantly. My uncle stopped eating. The house got quiet in that uncomfortable way where everyone hears everything. Grandpa didn't react right away. He just looked at her, then at me, then back at her. "Belongs to who?" he asked. "To Emily," my mom said. "You know how hard she works. Ethan barely even drives." My sister leaned against the wall, barely looking up. "It just makes sense," she said. "I have meetings." Grandpa rubbed his jaw slowly. Then he placed a hand on my shoulder. "Come in, son," he said. He didn't argue. He didn't raise his voice. We sat down at the table like everything was normal, but it wasn't. I wish I could say I said something right then. I didn't. I just sat down and pressed my thumb into the edge of the box I was holding until it hurt. Grandpa looked at me again. "When did this happen?" he asked. Mom jumped in quickly. "Dad, don't make this a big deal. Let him speak," Grandpa said. Then he looked straight at me, and that was the worst part. I didn't even know how to explain it. "I don't know," I said. "It just happened." And that was the truth. It always just happened. People like to talk about family business like it's something warm, like everyone working together. That's not what it felt like to me. In my family, it meant something else. It meant I paid. I started my ornament business at 19. First paycheck, I bought cheap materials and worked out of a small garage. The first Christmas, I stood outside a store in the cold, painting names while my hands were freezing. Still, I was proud. By the time I turned 21, things were getting better. That's when my grandpa bought me the car. He said, "This isn't for show. This is for your work." That meant everything to me. My mom smiled that day, took pictures, but later, things changed. Not all at once. Never all at once. Emily needed the car one weekend, then another. Then it just stayed with her. Every time I asked, there was a reason. "You don't use it much. She needs it more. It's temporary." It stopped being temporary. Then came the money. My mom called one night while I was working. "Sweetheart," she said, "we're a little short this month." She asked if I could help. Just this once. I did. Then next month, it was something else. Bills, expenses, always temporary. Never actually temporary. Emily started talking about growing the brand, not my business, hers. She posted videos, talked about our work like she was part of it. At first, I didn't say anything. Then I noticed charges on my account, small ones at first, then more. When I asked, she shrugged. "It helps all of us," she said. All of us. That phrase started to feel different. I started tracking everything. Late nights in the garage, going through numbers, transfers, charges, payments I didn't approve, money going out faster than it came in. I added it up twice because I didn't believe it. The family group chat was called Home Team. One night, my mom sent, "Thanksgiving plan, everyone contributes $300. Emily can't right now, so Ethan will cover her." Like it was already decided. I stared at it. Then I wrote, "I've already covered a lot. I need the car back. And stop using my card." Mom replied immediately, "Ungrateful." Emily reacted with a heart. My dad sent a thumbs up. That was it. That same week, my account went negative. I slept on the floor of my workshop that night. It was quiet. Too quiet. I kept thinking the same thing. I can't keep doing this. But I didn't know how to stop. And that's how I ended up there that Saturday, taking a taxi, carrying boxes, acting like everything was fine, until my grandpa asked that one question, and everything started to crack. 2 days later, I was back at my grandpa's table. Same house, same people, but it didn't feel the same. Dinner was already served. Chicken, rolls, the usual things that were supposed to feel normal. They didn't. Grandpa passed the plate like always, then looked at me like he hadn't forgotten. "So," he said, calm, "the car." Mom sighed immediately. "Dad, are we really doing this again?" Grandpa didn't even look at her. "I'm just asking for the story." Emily stirred her drink like she wasn't part of it. "It's simple," she said. "I use it more." Grandpa turned to me. "And you?" he asked. "Do you think it's simple?" I felt everyone looking at me again. That same pressure. That same expectation that I would smooth things over. "It's not that simple," I said. My voice sounded tight. Mom leaned back in her chair. "Oh my God," she said. "Here we go." Grandpa didn't react to her. He just nodded slightly, like he already understood more than I had said. That's when I realized something. He wasn't trying to argue. He was trying to understand, and that made it harder to stay quiet. The truth had been sitting in my chest for a long time. I just never said it out loud, because once you say it, you can't take it back, and things change. That night, after dinner, I called him. "I need help," I said. There was a short pause. "Come over," he said. "We'll talk." No questions. That was new. When I got there, he already had a notebook on the table. He pushed it toward me. "Tell me everything," he said. I hesitated. Not because I didn't want to, because I didn't know where to start. So I just started. I told him about the money, the calls, the just this once that never stopped, the charges I didn't approve, the way my account kept dropping while everyone else acted like it was normal. I told him about the car, how it slowly stopped being mine, how every time I asked I felt like I was the problem. He didn't interrupt, didn't react, just listened. Every once in a while he made a small mark on the paper, quiet, focused. When I finished, the room felt different. Like something heavy had finally been put down. He looked at the page, then at me. "You've been carrying them," he said. Not accusing, just stating it. I nodded, because that's exactly what it felt like. "They're calling it family," he continued, "but it's not balanced." He didn't use big words, didn't make it complicated, and somehow that made it hit harder. He leaned back in his chair. "All right," he said. "Here's what you're going to do." That night, I didn't hesitate, not for the first time. I went back to my workshop and sat down at my laptop, and I started cutting things off. I changed every password, removed every shared account, disconnected my card from anything that wasn't mine, ordered new equipment under my name only, no access, no exceptions. Then I made a document, everything I could track, every payment, every charge, every time money left my account for something that wasn't actually mine. The total sat there at the bottom, bigger than I expected. I stared at it for a long time. Then I sent one message in the group chat. "Here's everything I've paid for over the past year. Total is 8,000 plus. I'm not covering any more expenses. I'm not sharing my business. I want the car back by Friday." Mom replied almost immediately. "Are you serious right now?" Emily followed. "This is insane. Over a car?" Dad sent, "Let's calm down." I didn't respond. For once I didn't explain. Friday came. 5 p.m. passed. No car. At 5:20, I made the call. Short. Simple. I reported it. My phone started blowing up right after. "Mom, how dare you do this to your own family?" "Emily, you're embarrassing us." "Dad, call me." I didn't answer. At 7:10, headlights pulled into my lot. The BMW. Emily stepped out, holding the keys like she didn't care. She tossed them toward me. "There," she said. "Happy?" I caught them, didn't say anything. There was a scratch on the side. The tank was almost empty. "I needed it," she added, like that explained everything. I just stood there, holding the keys, trying to process how something that used to mean so much now just felt heavy. She called an Uber and left without looking back. The lot went quiet, really quiet. I leaned against the car for a second, closed my eyes, and for the first time in a long time, I felt something different. Not relief, not yet, but something close. Then my phone buzzed. A message from Grandpa. "Proud of you. Come by tomorrow." I looked at the screen for a while, then at the car, then back at the empty lot, and I realized something had already changed. The next morning I went back to my workshop. I barely slept, but I didn't feel as heavy as before. It was strange. Nothing in my life had really changed yet, but something inside me had. I got there early, before sunrise. The place was cold, like always. I turned on the heater, knowing it would probably shut off again after a while. Same routine, but it didn't feel the same. I started setting up for the weekend market. Boxes, display stands, tools, everything I used to do on autopilot. Except now I noticed something. I wasn't rushing. I wasn't checking my phone every 5 minutes. I wasn't waiting for another message asking me for something. For the first time in a long time, it felt quiet in my head. Around 9, my grandpa showed up, right on time. Same coat, same steady walk. He looked around the shop, taking it all in. "You've built something good here," he said. I nodded. "Still working on it," I replied. He picked up one of the ornaments and turned it in his hand. "Clean lines," he said. "You take your time." "I try to," I said. He didn't ask about my mom, didn't ask about Emily. He didn't have to. He set the ornament down and looked at me. "You did the hard part already," he said. I frowned slightly. "What do you mean?" "You stopped it," he said. "Just that. Simple." I leaned against the table. "It doesn't feel like that," I admitted. He nodded. "It won't at first." There was a pause. Then he pulled out a folder and placed it on the table. "I've been thinking," he said. I looked at it, didn't touch it yet. "What is it?" I asked. "Something I should have done sooner," he replied. I opened it slowly. Inside were papers. Not complicated, just clear. A small fund he had set aside years ago, originally meant for family support. "I changed it," he said. I looked up. "It's yours now, for the business." I just stared at him. "Grandpa," I started. He shook his head. "No speeches," he said. "Just use it right." I didn't know what to say. Part of me felt relieved. Another part felt uncomfortable. "Are you sure?" I asked. He looked at me like the answer was obvious. "I've been watching," he said. "You're the only one building something real." That hit harder than I expected. "I don't want this to make things worse," I said. "They already made it worse," he replied calmly. Then he added, "This just makes it clear." I nodded slowly, because he was right. Later that day, I set up at the market, same as always. Cold air, people walking by, that mix of stress and hope. But something was different. I wasn't carrying that same pressure anymore. Around noon, my phone started buzzing again. Messages from Mom. "You went too far. You embarrassed us. Family doesn't do this to each other." I read them. Then I muted the conversation. A customer walked up, asked for a name. "Mason," she said, with a small heart. I nodded and got to work. As I painted, my hands felt steady. More steady than they had in months. A few hours later, my dad showed up. He stood near the table, hands in his pockets, not really looking at me. "Your mom's upset," he said. "I know," I replied. He shifted his weight. "You could have handled it differently." I looked at him. "How?" I asked. He didn't answer right away. Then he just shook his head. "I don't know," he admitted. That was the first honest thing anyone had said in a while. "I'm not doing this anymore," I said. He nodded slowly. "I figured," he replied. He stayed for a minute longer, then left. That night, I checked my sales. Sold out of almost everything. It wasn't just the money. It was the feeling, like I was finally working for myself again. The next morning, Grandpa called. "Family meeting," he said. "Do I have to come?" I asked. "Yes," he said. When I got there, everyone was already sitting at the table. Mom, Dad, Emily. Tension filled the room. Mom started immediately. "This has gone too far," she said. "You're tearing this family apart over money." Grandpa didn't raise his voice. "We're going to talk about facts," he said. He placed my printed document on the table, tapped it once. "This is what he's been covering," he said. "No drama, no exaggeration, just facts." The room went quiet. Emily looked uncomfortable. Mom looked angry. Dad looked tired. "This isn't support," Grandpa continued. "This is one-sided." Mom crossed her arms. "We're family." Grandpa nodded. "Exactly," he said. "That's why it shouldn't look like this." Then he looked at me. "What do you want?" he asked. I didn't hesitate this time. "I want it to stop," I said. My voice didn't shake. "I want my business to be mine," I added. "And I'm not paying for everything anymore." Silence. Emily spoke first. "So that's it?" she said. "You're just cutting us off?" I looked at her. "I'm stopping what shouldn't have been happening in the first place." She didn't respond. Mom shook her head. "This is selfish," she said. I didn't argue. I just sat there. Because for the first time, I didn't feel like I had to convince anyone, and that changed everything. After that meeting, nothing really exploded. No one yelled. No one stormed out. It was quieter than that, and somehow, that made it heavier. Mom didn't talk to me on the way out. She just grabbed her bag and left like I wasn't even there. Emily followed right behind her, already on her phone. Dad stayed for a second. He looked like he wanted to say something. Didn't. Then he left too. I stayed sitting at the table. Grandpa didn't rush me. He just poured himself some coffee and sat across from me like always. "Well," he said after a while, "that went about as expected." I let out a small breath. "Yeah," I said. "Feels worse than I thought it would." He nodded. "It usually does," he said. I rubbed my hands together, trying to shake off the feeling. "They think I'm the bad guy now," I said. Grandpa looked at me carefully. "They thought you were useful before," he replied. "That's not the same thing as respecting you." That landed hard, because I knew it was true. "I didn't want it to get like this," I said. "It already was like this," he answered. "You just stopped pretending it wasn't." I didn't say anything after that, because there wasn't really anything to argue. That week, I started making changes. Real ones. I used the money Grandpa gave me to secure a better space. Still small, but cleaner, better lighting. Enough room to actually move without bumping into everything. I moved everything myself. Late nights, multiple trips. No one offered to help. I didn't ask. The new place felt different the moment I stepped inside. Not because it was bigger, because it was mine. I set up the tables, organized the shelves, lined up my paints in a way that actually made sense. No one touching anything. No one borrowing supplies. No one turning it into something else. Just me. A few days later, Mom texted, "Family dinner this Sunday." I looked at it for a while, then replied, "I can't. I've got work." She answered almost immediately, "You always have work now." I didn't respond, because she wasn't wrong, but it wasn't about work. It was about space. Dad showed up at the shop a couple days later. Didn't call first, just walked in and looked around. "New place?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. He nodded slowly. "Looks good," he said. We stood there for a second, awkward. Then he picked up one of the ornaments, turned it in his hand. "You've always been good at this," he said. I didn't know what to say to that, so I just said, "Thanks." He set it down. "Your mom's still upset," he added. "I know," I said. Another pause. "She thinks you cut everyone off," he said. I looked at him. "I didn't cut anyone off," I said. "I just stopped paying for everything." He nodded slowly, like he understood, but didn't want to fully agree. "Things might take time," he said. "I'm not in a rush," I replied. That seemed to settle something in him. Before leaving, he grabbed 2 ornaments from the table. "I'll take these," he said. "You don't have to." "I know," he cut in. Then he paid full price. That mattered more than he probably realized. A week later, Emily came by. I didn't expect that. She walked in like she wasn't sure if she should be there, looked around, didn't say anything at first. It's Nice, she said finally. Thanks, I replied. She picked up a small ornament shaped like a camera, turned it in her hand. How much? She asked. I told her. She hesitated for a second, then paid. No comments, no attitude, just paid. That was new. As she turned to leave, she stopped. I'm figuring stuff out, she said. I nodded. Yeah, I said. Me too. She didn't argue, didn't push, she just left. And for the first time in a long time, that interaction didn't feel like a fight waiting to happen. It just felt normal. That weekend at the market, something else changed. People weren't just buying ornaments. They were talking, telling me their own stories, about saying no, about setting boundaries, about finally stopping something that had been draining them for years. I didn't expect that. One woman said, I stopped paying my brother's bills last year. Hardest thing I ever did. Another guy said, my family still thinks I'm the bad guy. I just nodded, because I understood. That night, I closed up the shop and sat there for a while. No noise, no messages, no pressure, just quiet. And for the first time, it didn't feel empty. It felt like peace. January came in quiet. No holidays, no rush, just cold mornings and long, slow days. At first, that kind of silence felt strange. I was so used to constant pressure that not having it almost felt wrong. But after a few days, I started getting used to it. I opened the shop every morning at the same time, made coffee, set things up, worked. No interruptions, no messages asking for money, no one expecting me to fix something, just work. I used part of the money Grandpa gave me to upgrade a few things. Nothing flashy, just things that made sense. Better lighting, a proper setup for painting, shelves that didn't wobble every time I touched them, small improvements, but they changed everything. I even hired some help, a high school kid named Lucas. He came in after classes, helped organize, pack orders, keep things moving. First day, he looked around and said, this place is cool. I almost laughed. No one had ever said that about my space before. He worked fast, asked questions, actually cared, and for the first time, I wasn't doing everything alone. One afternoon, while we were organizing inventory, he looked at one of my displays and said, you should move this closer to the front. Why? I asked. Because it's the first thing people would notice, he said. Simple. But he was right. I moved it. Sales improved that same week. Sometimes it's not about working harder. It's about not being stretched in 10 different directions. Mom still texted occasionally. Short messages. Hope you're doing okay. We should talk. Family is still family. I kept my replies simple. Busy. Working. Maybe another time. No long explanations. No arguments. Just distance. Dad came by again one afternoon. Same way as before. No warning. He stood near the door for a second before stepping in. Looks like things are going well, he said. Yeah, I replied. He nodded. Walked around slowly. You seem different, he added. I looked at him. I am, I said. He didn't argue with that. Instead, he picked up another ornament. You've got steady hands, he said. Trying to keep them that way, I replied. He gave a small nod. Before leaving, he hesitated, then said, your grandpa's proud of you. I didn't answer right away. Then I said, that matters. He nodded again, then left. A few days later, Mom tried again. This time, a longer message. You've made your point, but this doesn't have to be permanent. We're still your family. I read it twice. Then I typed, I'm not trying to make a point. I'm just not going back to how things were. She didn't reply. That silence lasted longer this time. Emily didn't come back after her last visit, but I saw her online. Different kind of content now. Less about branding, more about everyday things. It felt more real. One afternoon, a customer came in and started talking while I worked. She said, it's funny how people get upset when you stop doing things for them. I nodded. They don't miss you, she added. They miss what you were doing for them. That stayed with me because it explained a lot. That night, after closing, I sat in the shop for a while, lights off, just sitting there, thinking about everything. A few months ago, I couldn't imagine things being like this. Quiet, stable, mine. Now, I couldn't imagine going back. And that was the biggest change of all. I didn't feel guilty anymore. Not the way I used to. I still cared. That didn't go away. But I finally understood something I hadn't before. Caring about people doesn't mean letting them take from you. And once that clicked, everything else started making sense. By February, things settled into a rhythm. Not perfect, but steady. I knew what my days looked like. Open the shop, work, talk to customers, close up, go home, sleep. No surprises, no sudden problems showing up out of nowhere. That alone felt new. Lucas kept coming in after school. He got faster, more confident, started handling things without asking every time. One day he said, you ever think about selling online more? I already do a little, I said. You should do more, he replied. People would buy this. I looked at him. You really think so? I asked. He nodded. Yeah. This isn't normal stuff. It actually looks good. That stuck with me. Not because it was a big statement, but because it was honest. Later that week, I spent a night setting up better listings, cleaner photos, better descriptions, simple improvements. Orders started coming in slowly after that, then more. Nothing overwhelming, but consistent. And consistency was something I hadn't had in a long time. One afternoon, Grandpa stopped by again. Same routine. Walk in, look around, sit down like he belonged there. You've got something solid here, he said. I'm getting there, I replied. He nodded. Then he looked at me for a second longer than usual. You sleeping better? He asked. That caught me off guard. Yeah, I said after a moment. I am. He smiled slightly. Good, he said. That matters more than people think. We sat there in silence for a bit, not awkward, just quiet. Then he added, they've been quieter too. I knew who he meant. Yeah, I said. I noticed. They're adjusting, he said. I didn't respond right away. Or they're waiting, I said finally. He nodded. Maybe both. That felt more accurate. A few days later, Mom called. Not a text, a call. I stared at my phone for a few seconds before answering. Hey, I said. Her voice sounded different, less sharp. Hi, she replied. I just wanted to check in. I didn't say anything right away. I heard things are going well, she added. They are, I said. A short pause. That's good, she said. Another pause. Then she said, we miss you. That one hit. Not because it fixed anything, but because it felt real. I'm still around, I said. I know, she replied. It's just different. Yeah, I said. Neither of us said anything for a few seconds. Then she tried to shift it. We're having dinner this weekend, she said. You could come by. No pressure. No pressure. That was new. I'll think about it, I said. She didn't push. Okay, she said. Just think about it. We hung up after that. I sat there for a while, phone still in my hand. It wasn't the same conversation we used to have. There was no guilt, no demands, no expectations hidden inside the words, just space. That night, I stayed at the shop later than usual, not because I had to, just because I wanted to. I worked on a small batch of custom pieces, simple designs, clean lines. My hands felt steady, not rushed, not tense, just steady. And somewhere in the middle of that quiet, I realized something. Things weren't fixed, but they weren't broken the same way anymore either. And for now, that was enough. I didn't go to that dinner, not that weekend. I thought about it more than I expected. But every time I pictured myself sitting at that table again, something in me tightened. Not fear, just resistance. So I stayed at the shop instead. That night, I closed a little earlier than usual, sat down with a cup of coffee and went over orders for the week. Everything was simple, clear, mine. No one else attached to it, no one else depending on it in ways I couldn't control. And for the first time in a long time, that felt right. A few days later, Emily showed up again. I wasn't expecting it. She walked in slower this time, looked around like she was trying to see the place differently. You've been busy, she said. Yeah, I replied. She nodded, picked up one of the newer designs, turned it in her hands. These are better, she said. I didn't know if that was a compliment or just an observation. Thanks, I said anyway. She set it down carefully this time, not like before. Then she leaned against the counter. I didn't realize how much you were covering, she said. I stayed quiet, because I didn't know if she was apologizing or just noticing. I mean, she continued, I knew you helped, but not like that. I nodded once. Yeah, I said. It added up. There was a pause. Then she said, Mom didn't tell it like that. That didn't surprise me. She wouldn't, I said. Emily let out a small breath. I'm not saying you're wrong, she added quickly. I know, I said. Another pause. Then she said something different. I'm trying to figure things out now, she said. I looked at her. Good, I replied, and I meant it. She glanced around again. Do you ever think about working together again? She asked. That question hung in the air. Not like before. Not casual. Careful. I took a second before answering. Not like before, I said. She nodded slowly. Yeah, she said. That makes sense. And that was it. No argument, no pressure. She picked up a small ornament. I'll take this, she said. I told her the price. She paid. Full price. Again. That still stood out to me. Before leaving, she paused at the door. I'm not trying to mess things up again, she said. I believed her. At least, a little. Then don't, I said. She nodded, then left. The shop went quiet again, but it didn't feel tense. Just quiet. Later that week, I decided to try something new. I recorded a short video while I worked. Nothing fancy. Just my hands painting a small design. No talking, no face, just the process. I posted it. Didn't think much of it. By the next day, it had more attention than anything I'd posted before. People liked it, not because it was perfect, but because it felt real. That was something I hadn't leaned into before. I always thought I needed more. Better setup. Better strategy. Turns out, I just needed to stop overthinking it. Orders picked up again after that. Not crazy, but steady. And steady was enough. One evening, Grandpa came by again. Sat in the corner like usual, watching. You look lighter, he said after a while. I feel lighter, I replied. He nodded. That's what happens when you stop carrying things that aren't yours, he said. I smiled a little. Yeah, I said. I'm starting to see that. He didn't add anything else. He didn't need to, because at that point, I was already starting to understand it on my own. By March, things felt stable. Not perfect, but predictable. I knew what to expect when I woke up. I knew what my day would look like. And for the first time in years, that didn't stress me out. The shop was doing better. Not exploding, but steady. Online orders came in every day. Small batches, custom names, repeat customers. People started recognizing my work. One customer walked in and said, "You're the one from that video, right?" I nodded. Yeah, I said. She smiled. I knew it. Your stuff looked even better in person. That stayed with me. Not because it was a big deal, but because it felt earned. Later that day, Lucas looked at me and said, "You should post more." I might, I said. He nodded like it wasn't even a question. You definitely should, he added. Simple. That was becoming a pattern. Simple things. Clear direction. No noise around it. That same week, Mom texted again. Your dad's birthday is this weekend. I read it. Didn't reply right away. A minute later, another message. He'd like to see you. That one felt different. Not pressure. Not guilt. Just information. I sat there for a while, thinking. Then I replied, I'll stop by. Short. She didn't respond after that. Saturday came. I almost didn't go. I sat in my car for a few minutes before getting out. Same house, same driveway, but it didn't feel the same. When I walked in, everything was already set up. Food on the table, people talking. Mom noticed me first. "You made it," she said. Her tone was careful. "Yeah," I replied. Dad came over. "Glad you're here," he said. That felt real. Emily gave me a small nod from across the room. Not awkward, not forced, just acknowledgement. I stayed near the edge of things at first. Didn't jump into conversations. Didn't try to fill space. Just observed. It felt different, not because they had changed completely, but because I had. At one point, Mom came over. "We're glad you came," she said. I nodded. "Me too," I replied. There was a pause. Then she said, "We've been adjusting." That was the closest thing to an admission I'd heard. "I can tell," I said. She looked like she wanted to say more, but didn't, and that was okay. Later, Dad opened a gift I brought, an ornament, simple, hand-painted. He held it for a second longer than expected. "This is really good," he said. "I know," I replied. He smiled a little at that. That moment felt normal, not forced, not complicated, just normal. I didn't stay long, didn't need to. As I was leaving, Emily walked up to me. "Hey," she said. "Hey," I replied. She hesitated for a second. "Thanks for coming," she said. I nodded. "Yeah," I said. "It was good." Another pause. Then she said, "I'm trying to do things differently." I looked at her. "I noticed," I said. She nodded once, then stepped back. No drama, no tension, just space. When I got back to my car, I sat there for a minute, thinking. Nothing was fixed, but nothing felt fake either, and that mattered more. I drove home without overthinking it. No replaying conversations, no second guessing, just moving forward, and that was new. After that visit, things didn't suddenly become close again. There were no big conversations, no emotional breakthroughs, but something had shifted. There was less tension, less pressure, and most importantly, no one was asking me for anything. I went back to my routine the next day, opened the shop, made coffee, started working. Lucas showed up a little late. "Sorry," he said. "Test ran long." "It's fine," I replied. He looked around for a second. "You look different today," he said. "Different how?" I asked. "Less stressed," he said. I thought about that. "Yeah," I said. "Probably." He nodded like that made sense. We got to work. Orders, packing, organizing. At one point, he looked at the board where I tracked everything. "You ever think about expanding?" he asked. "Maybe," I said. "Like another location or something," he added. I shook my head slightly. "Not yet," I said. "I want this one solid first." He nodded. "Smart," he said. That word stuck with me. Smart. Not safe, not small, smart. That was new. Later that afternoon, I got a message from Grandpa. "Stop by when you can." Simple. I closed up a little earlier and drove over. He was sitting at the table like always, newspaper folded, coffee in front of him. "You're getting busier," he said as I walked in. "Yeah," I replied. He nodded. "Good," he said. I sat down across from him. We didn't talk right away. Didn't need to. After a minute, he said, "They've stopped asking." I knew who he meant. "Yeah," I said. "They have." He looked at me carefully. "And how does that feel?" he asked. I thought about it. "Quiet," I said. He smiled slightly. "That's not a bad thing," he said. "No," I replied. "It's not." Another pause. Then he said something that stayed with me. "People get used to access," he said. "When you take that away, they have to adjust." I nodded. "Some will," he continued. "Some won't." I leaned back in my chair. "I'm okay with that now," I said, and I meant it. He nodded once. "That's the point," he said. We sat there a little longer, then I headed back. That night I stayed up later than usual, not working, just thinking about everything. A few months ago, I felt stuck, like no matter how hard I worked, it wasn't really mine. Now, everything felt clearer, not easier, but clearer, and that made it easier to move forward. The next day at the shop, a customer came in and started talking while I worked. She said, "I used to feel guilty saying no to my family." I nodded. "What changed?" I asked. She smiled slightly. "I got tired," she said. "Tired of feeling used." That word hit. Used. I didn't say it out loud, but I knew exactly what she meant. After she left, I stood there for a second, thinking about how long it took me to see it that way. Not as helping, not as supporting, but as being used. And once you see it like that, you can't unsee it. That night, I locked up the shop and stood outside for a minute. Cold air, quiet street, no noise, no pressure, just space. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I owed that space to anyone. It was mine. By mid-March, the shop didn't just feel stable. It felt established. Not big, not impressive to most people, but real. I had regular customers now. People who came back, people who remembered my name. That still surprised me. One afternoon, a woman walked in and said, "You made one for my daughter last year." I nodded. "She still has it," she added. That meant more than she probably realized. Not the sale, not the money. The fact that something I made stayed. Lucas noticed it too. "You've got people coming back now," he said. "Yeah," I replied. "That's how you know it's working," he said. Simple. He was right. That same week, I finally did something I had been putting off. I raised my prices, not by a lot, just enough to match the time and effort I was actually putting in. Old me would have hesitated, second-guessed it, worried about losing people. This time, I didn't, and nothing bad happened. People still bought. Some didn't. But the ones who did appreciated it more. That was something I hadn't understood before. Later that week, Mom showed up. Not a text, not a call. She just walked into the shop. I looked up when the door opened. "Hey," she said. "Hey," I replied. She looked around slowly. "It's nice," she said. "Thanks," I said. There was a pause. Then she stepped closer. We've been doing things differently, she said. I didn't respond right away because I wanted to hear what that meant. No more shared accounts, she added. No more assumptions. That caught my attention. I nodded once. That's good, I said. She looked at me carefully. I didn't realize how much pressure you were under, she said. I held her gaze. I didn't either, I replied. That was the truth. There was a long pause, not uncomfortable, just honest. I'm not asking you to go back, she said. That mattered. I just want things to be better. I nodded slowly. Me too, I said, and for once, that didn't feel like a lie. She picked up one of the ornaments, turned it in her hands. You've always been good at this, she said. I didn't answer that, because it wasn't about that. Not anymore. She set it down. I'll let you get back to work, she said. Okay, I replied. She walked to the door, then paused. I'm proud of you, she said. That one stayed. After she left, I stood there for a minute, processing it. It didn't fix everything, but it felt real, not forced, not manipulative, just real. Later that night, Grandpa called. Your mom stopped by? He asked. Yeah, I said. He was quiet for a second. That's a good sign, he said. Maybe, I replied. He chuckled softly. Progress doesn't look dramatic, he said. It looks like this. I leaned back in my chair. Slow? I asked. Steady, he corrected. That word again. Steady. It felt like everything was coming back to that, and for the first time, I wasn't trying to rush past it. I was actually okay staying there. By April, things didn't feel new anymore. They felt normal, not the old normal, a different one. The kind where I woke up and didn't immediately think about problems. The shop kept moving, orders coming in, customers returning, Lucas getting better every week. At some point, I stopped checking my phone constantly. That habit just faded. No more waiting for something to go wrong. One afternoon, Lucas looked at me while packing an order. You ever notice how calm this place is? He said. I paused for a second. Yeah, I said. I do. He nodded. It's a good kind of calm, he added. That was exactly it. Not empty, not quiet in a bad way, just steady. That word again. Later that day, I got a message from Emily. Can I stop by? I looked at it for a second, then replied, yeah. She showed up about an hour later. Same as before, but different. Less confident, more careful. Hey, she said. Hey, I replied. She walked around slowly, looking at everything. You've really built this up, she said. I've been working on it, I replied. She nodded. Then she sat down. I wanted to say something, she said. I waited. I didn't handle things right before, she admitted. That was new. Not defensive, not dismissive, just direct. I thought it was normal, she continued. The way we were doing things. I didn't interrupt. But it wasn't, she added. I nodded once. No, I said. It wasn't. There was a pause. I'm not asking for anything, she said quickly. I just wanted you to know that. That mattered. I appreciate that, I replied. She looked relieved, like she wasn't sure how that was going to go. I'm trying to build something on my own now, she said. I nodded. Good, I said. And again, I meant it. She stood up after that. I'll let you get back to work, she said. All right, I replied. She walked toward the door, then stopped. I really am sorry, she said. I looked at her. I know, I said. That was enough. She nodded, then left. The shop went quiet again, but this time, it didn't feel like distance. It felt like space that didn't need to be filled. Later that night, I thought about that conversation, not overanalyzing it, just letting it sit, and I realized something. I didn't need an apology to move on, but hearing one made it easier. The next morning, Grandpa came by. Same routine, sat down, looked around. She came by? He asked. Yeah, I said. He nodded. That's good, he said. I leaned back. She apologized, I added. He looked at me. And? He asked. I thought about it. It felt real, I said. He smiled slightly. That's all that matters, he replied. We sat there for a bit. Then he said something simple. Things don't go back, he said. They move forward. I nodded. I'm okay with that, I said. And for the first time, that wasn't something I was trying to convince myself of. It was just true. By late April, I stopped thinking about before so much. Not because it didn't matter, but because it didn't control anything anymore. The shop kept growing in small ways. Nothing dramatic, but steady. More custom orders, more repeat customers, people recommending me to others. Lucas started handling things on his own without asking. One afternoon, he said, I think we should reorder these. I looked over. He was right. Go ahead, I said. He nodded like that was normal. And that was the point. Things were becoming normal, not dependent, not chaotic, just working. That same week, I made another change. I adjusted my schedule, gave myself one full day off. No shop, no work, just time. At first, it felt strange, like I was supposed to be doing something, but after a while, it started to feel necessary. That day, I drove out without a plan. No destination, no pressure, just driving. And I realized something halfway through it. I hadn't done that in years. Everything used to be tied to something. Work, family, responsibility. Now, it didn't have to be. A few days later, Mom texted again. Dinner this Sunday. No pressure. I read it, then replied, I'll come by for a bit. Short. She didn't push. Sunday came. This time, I didn't sit in the car as long. I walked in. Same house. But it didn't feel as heavy anymore. Mom greeted me. Hey, she said. Hey, I replied. Her tone was softer now. Not careful. Just normal. Dad nodded from the table. Emily was already there. She gave me a small wave. I waved back. No tension. No awkward silence. Just Space. We sat down. Dinner started. Conversation moved naturally. Nothing forced, nothing avoided. At one point, Mom said, "We've been managing things better." I nodded. "That's good," I said. She looked at me. "We should have done that earlier," she added. That was the closest thing to an apology I'd heard from her. "I'm glad you're doing it now," I said. She nodded, didn't push it further, and that was enough. Later, Dad asked about the shop. "How's business?" he said. "Good," I replied. "Steady," I added. He smiled slightly. "Sounds like you," he said. I didn't argue with that. Emily mentioned something about her own projects. Different now. Less talk about growth, more about actual work. "I'm trying to build something real," she said. I nodded. "Good," I said. And again, I meant it. I didn't stay long, didn't need to. As I got up to leave, Mom walked me to the door. "I'm glad you came," she said. "Me too," I replied. She hesitated for a second, then said, "We're figuring it out." I looked at her. "Yeah," I said. "Me too." That felt honest. No pressure, no expectations, just where things were. When I got back to the shop later that night, I didn't feel drained. I didn't feel pulled back into anything. I just felt separate in a good way. And that's when I realized something important. Distance didn't mean losing people. Sometimes it just meant seeing them clearly. By May, things didn't feel fragile anymore. They felt solid. Not because everything was perfect, but because nothing felt like it could collapse overnight. The shop had its own rhythm now. Mornings were for setup, afternoons for customers, evenings for finishing orders. Lucas handled more without asking. One day, he said, "I think we're running out of these again." I checked. He was right. "Order more," I said. He nodded, no hesitation. That was becoming normal too. Trust, not just in him, in the whole system. Something I hadn't had before. That same week, I got a message from a local store. They wanted to carry some of my work. Not a huge deal, but still, a step. Old me would have overthought it. This time, I didn't. I set clear terms. Simple, fair. They agreed, and just like that, something new opened up. No pressure, no confusion, just a clear agreement. That felt different. Later that week, Grandpa came by again. He looked around like always. "You're expanding," he said. "A little," I replied. He nodded. "Good," he said. We sat down for a bit. Then he asked, "Do you feel in control now?" I thought about it. "Yeah," I said. "I do." He smiled slightly. "That's the difference," he said. I didn't need him to explain. I already understood. Control didn't mean everything went my way. It meant I wasn't being pulled in directions I didn't choose. That was enough. A few days later, Mom called again. Not about money, not about problems, just to talk. "How's the shop?" she asked. "Good," I said. "Busy?" "Steady." She paused for a second. "That's a good word," she said. I smiled a little. "Yeah," I replied. We talked for a few minutes. Simple things. Nothing heavy. No tension. And when the call ended, I didn't feel drained. That was new. Emily sent me a message later that week. "Got my first small order." I looked at it, then replied, "Nice. Keep going." She responded with a simple, "Thanks." That was it. No competition. No comparison. Just separate paths. And that worked. That night, I stayed at the shop a little longer. Not because I had to, because I wanted to. I worked on a new design, something different. Took my time with it. No rush, no pressure, just focus. And while I was working, I realized something. I wasn't trying to prove anything anymore. Not to my family, not to myself. I was just building, and that felt better than anything else. By June, I stopped thinking of the shop as something I was trying to build. It was built. Still growing, still improving, but no longer fragile. It could stand on its own. That changed how I saw everything. I wasn't chasing stability anymore. I had it. Now, I was just maintaining it. Lucas had become a real part of the routine, not just helping, actually contributing. One afternoon, he said, "We should start preparing for the holidays early this year." I looked at him. "Early?" I asked. He nodded. "Yeah. If last year was busy, this one's going to be bigger." I thought about it. He wasn't wrong. "All right," I said. "Let's plan it out. Simple. No stress. Just preparation." That was new. Planning without pressure. Later that week, I got another message from the local store. They wanted to increase their order. Not by a lot, but enough to matter. I agreed. Same clear terms. No confusion. No blurred lines. That alone made everything easier. One evening, Grandpa came by again. Same routine. Sat down. Looked around. "You've turned this into something real," he said. I nodded. "Yeah," I replied. "I guess I have." He smiled slightly. "I never doubted it," he said. I believed him, not because he said it now, because he had shown it from the beginning. We sat there for a while, then he said something simple. "You don't look tired anymore." I thought about that. He was right. "I'm not," I said, and that felt good to admit. A few days later, Mom stopped by again. This time it felt normal. Not planned, not careful, just normal. She walked in, looked around, smiled a little. "It's busy," she said. "Yeah," I replied. She nodded. "You've done well," she added. I didn't overthink it. "Thanks," I said. We talked for a few minutes. Nothing heavy, no tension, just conversation. Before leaving, she paused. "I'm glad you didn't give up on this," she said. I looked at her. "I almost did," I replied. That was honest. She nodded slowly. "I know," she said. And for once, that felt like she really did. Emily came by later that week too. Quick visit. "I just wanted to show you something," she said. She pulled out her phone, showed me a small project she had been working on. Simple, but real. "I made this myself," she said. I looked at it. "You did good," I said. She smiled. "Thanks," she replied. No competition, no comparison, just progress. That night, after closing, I stood in the shop for a while. Lights off, quiet, same as before. But it didn't feel like something I had to protect anymore. It felt like something that could keep going, with or without anything else around it. And that was the biggest difference of all. By the time summer started, everything felt settled. Not finished, not perfect, but stable in a way I hadn't experienced before. The shop ran smoothly. Orders came in. Customers returned. Lucas handled things without needing constant direction. I had time, not extra time, real time. The kind where you don't feel like something is about to go wrong. One morning, I opened the shop like usual. Coffee, lights on, same routine, but something felt different. Not outside, inside. I wasn't waiting for anything. No message, no problem, no interruption, just the day ahead, and that was enough. Later that afternoon, Grandpa stopped by. Same as always. He sat down, looked around, then looked at me. You did it, he said. I leaned back slightly. Did what? I asked. He smiled a little. You stopped letting them decide what your life looked like, he said. I thought about that. He wasn't talking about the shop. Not really. He was talking about everything. Yeah, I said. I guess I did. He nodded. That's not easy, he added. I know, I replied. We sat there quietly for a bit. Then he said something that stayed with me. Boundaries feel wrong to people who benefit from you not having any. I let that sink in because it explained everything. The reactions, the tension, the guilt, all of it. I used to think saying no meant I was doing something wrong, I said. He shook his head. It just means you're choosing, he replied. That felt simple and true. After he left, I stayed at the shop a little longer, not working, just sitting there, thinking about how things used to be, how normal it felt to carry everything, how long it took me to realize it wasn't supposed to be like that, and how hard it was to change it, but also how worth it was. That night, I drove home slowly. No rush, no pressure, just quiet. A few days later, I stopped by the senior center with a small box of ornaments that weren't perfect. Paint slightly off, lines not as clean, things I wouldn't sell. The manager smiled like they were worth everything. These are perfect, she said. I nodded, because I understood that now. Perfect doesn't always mean flawless. Sometimes it just means honest. On the way back, I passed by my parents' house. Lights on, Emily filming something inside, Mom moving around in the kitchen. For a second, I slowed down, not because I wanted to go in, just to look. Then I kept driving, not out of anger, not out of distance, just because I didn't need to stop anymore, and that was the difference. I still cared. That never went away, but I wasn't responsible for everything anymore. I wasn't the solution to every problem. I wasn't the one holding everything together, and I didn't need to be. Back at the shop the next morning, I unlocked the door, stepped inside, and set things up like always. Same routine, but now, it actually felt like mine. Not shared, not taken, not expected. Mine. I still help when I can, still show up when it matters, but only when it's real, only when it's asked, not assumed. I don't say yes to everything anymore, and I don't explain myself the way I used to. I just say no, and mean it, because now I know what happens when I don't. I lose myself in the process, and I'm not going back to that. If that makes me selfish to some people, that's fine. I've seen what saying yes to everything costs, and I prefer what my no has given me. Time, peace, steady hands, and a life that finally feels like it belongs to me.